Okay, welcome, Councilor McGee. We have Councilor Barlow here, and me. We have a forum of the Board of Finance. So let's dive in. I'll call the Board of Finance to order at 5:33 p.m. Good to see everybody. We have a fair amount to get through. The first item on the agenda is the agenda, and I guess I didn't mean to ask the acting city attorney, Jared, should we be amending the agenda to have a potential executive session on Main Street if we want to keep that possible?
If that's the intention, yes.
Okay. All right, great. I would recommend that we make that motion with that. So
I will move the agenda as amended.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor McGee. My thinking there has been, since we talked in executive session last week about the Main Street project, there's some updates I'd like to share. And there's still, I think we'll give some public update, but I think there's still a need for some executive session discussion potentially. So, with that, any further discussion of the agenda? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. That brings us to item 2. Welcome, Councilor Jang. Item number 2 is the public forum. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak to the Board of Finance? I'm not seeing anyone in the room. And we do have Sharon Busher online with her hand up. So Sharon, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. So this is a difficult day. Last night, certainly for the city, was a hard one. And I'm not going to dwell on it, but I think as a resident, I continue to worry about what we can do to stem the tide of violence that we're seeing, and the people that are dying at the hands of individuals with guns. So I'm pretty devastated by last night, but I'm calling because I wanted to speak about 2 items on your agenda. The first one has to do with salt procurement, and I have no problem with what's being proposed, but I'm not well versed in whether or not we use a salt brine, Mr. Mayor, when we apply it to the roads. And there's been a lot of information out there regarding how salt obviously impacts our waterways, and salt brine has less of an impact. And so as the head of the city and interacting with department heads, I'm hoping that that information, if we do it, I'm hoping that information will get out to the citizens so we know we do it. And if we don't do it, I would like to ask that you ask DPW to consider if that's possible. I know smaller communities, I guess it would be more difficult for them, but I see us as, we're not big, but we're big for Vermont. So I'm hoping that maybe that could be considered if we're not already doing something like that. So that's the first thing. The second thing I'm going to put under the umbrella of downtown vibrancy. And this is for the Board of Finance. This really isn't on your agenda, but it's on the Public Works agenda for Wednesday, and I've already spoken to the commission about this. It has to do with the 2 hours of free parking for downtown. I feel like our downtown is so fragile that having 2 hours of parking on Friday and Saturday really doesn't cut it. Now, the reason I'm bringing this to the Board of Finance is because it's going to be a hit to DPW's budget. But I really think we should be broadening that and making parking free for as much as we possibly can. So to encourage people to come downtown and shop. I just feel like this is a pittance and that's not enough for our downtown. I've been worried about our downtown and businesses in general for quite a while. I know that we need housing, but I don't feel we have to go in one direction and ignore another direction. I feel our businesses are screaming. It's not just Church Street, it's businesses in general. And we're going to become a bedroom town. And I don't think that's what any one of us wants. So please take this request under your consideration as a Board of Finance and see if there's a way that we can free up more money so more hours can be free and we can encourage people to come down and shop. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. And I don't believe there's one other person on attendee online. If you'd like to be recognized to speak to the Board of Finance, please indicate that by using the raise hand function. Does not appear that we have any other takers for public forum tonight, so we will close the public forum at 5:39 and now move to the next segment of the agenda, which is the consent agenda. I do note maybe really quickly that since the salt procurement is on the consent agenda, Chapin, are you able to give a 15-second explanation of how we use brine or salt?
Yes, so on the agenda tonight is the salt procurement, which is the rock salt that we use. We also do mix it with liquid brine that does reduce the amount of overall salt that we need to use. And I'm happy to follow up with former Councilor Busher to give her more information.
Great, thank you for that. With that, I think I would welcome a motion to adopt the consent agenda and take the actions indicated.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilor McGee.
Second.
Second by Councilor Jang. Thank you. Any discussion of the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is adopted unanimously. And that gets us to item 4, the section of the agenda for approval and recommendation to City Council. We have 3 items here. The first is a Burlington Fire Department station alerting item. Welcome, Chief.
Good evening, everybody. My project lead, Deputy Chief Steve Petit, is with me. He will give you a presentation tonight.
So we're looking for approval and authorization to spend up to $430,000 to replace our existing station alerting system. The funding for this comes out of the 2022 GO bond, so it's part of the plan that was in place. With this particular system, what we're looking for is reliability and the ability to ensure that our members get notification in the stations as well as out of the stations, which this product is able to do for us. Our existing system was installed, part of it, in 1998. It is beyond its useful life and does not allow for many of the features that we are looking for, a big one being reliability. And then the other aspect is being that with the station alerting, that includes lights and audio, and that element within the stations, including like our older stations, is much older than 1998. So I don't know the exact date, but what this system would do would replace the alerting system to include the speakers. It would provide digital notification, audible notification, and visual to our responders. Included as a part of this, there are digital dashboards, so signs that would be in the stations, and there's also a mobile application. So there's some redundancy, and it allows for us to provide notifications to on-duty responders, as well as a means to recall off-duty personnel. What is interesting with this is that the vendor that we are proposing we go with was actually the lowest bidder, but actually provided the most for us. And they were able to do that by using current top technology. The other station alerting vendors who had submitted, they required a lot more hardware. So this particular product, what they use is a wireless to Zigbee network and uses commercially available products. So down the road, if we want to expand, we have the capacity and the ability to go down to the hardware store, buy a Philips product off the shelf and add it into the system. So we're not relying on a sole source, a vendor to be providing that. As a piece of this, what we also are purchasing is the warranty that provides coverage for the software. It keeps us current and up to date so long as we have that service agreement. And that particular warranty, what it also does is it covers all of the hardware that we would be purchasing. So that's a part of our concern now is our current system. There is no warranty, nothing is covered, and it is beyond useful life.
Great, thank you very much. The floor is open for questions, discussion, or motion. Go ahead, Councilor Barlow.
Thank you. I'm just curious, what's the expected lifespan of the system of this?
So what we've been given for an answer is that they expect the lifetime of it to be as long as we maintain contract, service agreement with them. So what is included is as long as there is an agreement and there are changes to their software or the hardware is required to be changed, that we move with them as the company grows. So do we stay current. That is not something that we found we would be getting with other products. And that was a big concern for us as we're making a big purchase. We want to be able to ensure that down the road, it offers a solution in the longest lifetime possible.
So the service level agreement would basically say as long as you were under warranty, you'd be covered, but like all software, eventually it comes to end of life. And is there any provision to tell you when that might be? And I mean, within the contract.
I would have to go back.
Okay.
As long as they're in business, we will be up to date.
Okay.
That's the assurance that was given to us by the vendor.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
The biggest question I had when we went visit them was the hardware. Something fails or something goes out of date. What then? When am I buying new tablets every? He says, no, as long as you have this service, we keep all of your hardware updated.
Any further questions?
Yes,
Go ahead, Councilor Jang. Then
yes,
Councilor-
and I had the same question as Councilor Barlow. And now one thing that's not clear is what if the company go bankrupt? I mean, I think as long as they exist and do business, we should work with them. But what if now something happened on their end? How will we ensure, provision with this contract?
Well, I don't know how we would do that with any of the vendors, to be honest with you, Counselor. They all are web-based, basically, so they all will be required to have some sort of connection and updates. And we are not new to this company. This company has been around for a little while. All of their products are in large departments like Rochester, New York. They're putting their products in
Boise, Idaho, Detroit.
So honestly, we have a feeling that this company is very solid and we're comfortable with the product that they're offering. Can I guarantee you that in 20 years they're still going to be around? I can't, but I also can't guarantee that of any vendor that we've dealt with.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor McGee.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you both for the presentation tonight. I heard a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago, and I'm glad that we're at a point where we're approving it. And I think it's kind of rare that we make these vast improvements to some of the systems that operate in the city. It's great to see that this is scalable and also has so many benefits for the membership as well. So with that, I'd be glad to make a motion if there aren't any other questions.
Second.
Great. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilor Jang.
Yeah, this is for our city attorney and was just wondering what type of provision should we put in place for the security of the city if something goes wrong?
Well, I am working with the fire department to evaluate the contract, but Councilor James, just as you brought up, if they were to go into bankruptcy, like any type of breach of contract, we would have those provisions to make sure that the city is protected, and then at which case we would evaluate it, and if there is a civil remedy that we can take them to court and pursue to make sure that we recoup any lost expense the city may have already put out if they cannot provide the scope of services that they're under contract with us for, then we would evaluate that and make sure that we take that remedy.
Right. That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next up is 4.2 Railyard Enterprise Project. Stantec design contracting activities. DPW item. Welcome, Corey.
Thanks.
And Mike kicks off.
Yeah, so this is a contract amendment with Stantec to continue design work and move into the right of way as we anticipating getting resolution or a decision from the Federal Highway on the EA as it's being reviewed right now. And there's another round of reviews, just federal process. We anticipate getting a decision on that mid-January. And so we're proactively trying to capitalize on our consultants' availability and moving forward with proceeding into the preliminary design and right-of-way phase. So this amendment is allowing us to extend their contract underneath the scope that was already kind of approved previously through the initial decision to select Stantec, and we would be looking to this amendment, just keeping it within the current authorized budget that we have for the project, but we would be looking to amend. Further amendments would require additional funding at this point as we progress in the project, but all within the anticipated current allowable amount that we have for the forecast for the project. So this is keeping us within, but we'll be back later with another amendment as work progresses.
Very good. Thank you. Floor is open for questions or motion.
I would like to make the motion as indicated on Civic Clerk. And thank you for the update, the team DPW.
Further discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Brings us to 4.3, which is amendment to the tax increment and financing district consultant services contract with White+Burke. Brian, come in here to welcome Brian.
Thank you. For the record, it's Brian Pine, Director of the Community and Economic Development Office. And before you tonight is a request to amend the existing contract to both allow for more time using the services of White+Burke, as well as to increase the funding allocated to that work. The work continues to be pretty deep as well as somewhat broad because it includes both TIF districts and there's very different issues facing our districts. We have expertise in our consultant that is very unusual and is extremely difficult to build within in-house. So it is our recommendation that we continue to work with White+Burke in order to advance these important projects for the city. I think the investment is eligible for reimbursement under TIF related cost rules. And I would urge your approval, but answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Brian. Floor is open for questions, motion. Go ahead, Councilor Barlow.
I'm just happy to make the motion.
Great.
As indicated on City Clerk.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second by Councilor Jang. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And that is that motion passes. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
All right. This brings us to the last item on the agenda, which is an update regarding Great Streets, Main Street. And we have Norm and Chapin here, and so this is an item. Obviously, the Main Street project is a major project that we've been working on for many years and is getting close to construction. So I think I'm going to say that Laura Willock, senior engineer, is here as well. And we had an executive session discussion with the full city council about this project last week, and we are moving towards potential council action next Monday. We wanted to have some give as much of a public update as we could tonight, and then I do think it would be advisable to continue the executive session discussion with the board. And just to clarify, we are not recommending action on these other contracts tonight. There will be a number of related contracts to the main construction contract, and we're going to save recommendations for all of them until next week.
That is correct.
Okay. So with that, why don't you further orient the public and give an update on where we're at.
Great.
Can I get permission to share? First. While I'm doing that, just to note that we will be having a special Board of Finance to do that next week. So not currently on the calendar, but stay tuned, we'll be scheduled.
Thanks, Mayor. While Laura's queuing up the presentation, I'll just say that as with any construction project, there's far more than the construction contract that needs to be approved. We have the design contract that needs amendment, and we have resident engineer and outreach services that are all part of a successful package. And so Senior Engineer Willock will walk through those components here so that the Board of Finance has as much information in advance of the 20th as possible.
Thank you. So as we talked about at the council, we're really right on our current schedule, which is what we presented to the public, the council, and other interested parties back in the beginning of 2022. We're at the point where we're about to head into construction for Main Street. With that comes a lot of work from a lot of different entities, and in the interest of being able to present and provide the information in a more succinct way, other than the current 7 pages that were in front of you, we wanted to just highlight that here. So our design consultant, VHB, we are looking to amend their contract to add some more support services during construction, to help with managing the contaminated soils that exist in the corridor, as well as adding specialty inspection for water sewer. It is a very involved project, and our group at DPW is already taxed, and really having the specialty expertise is critical to having our water supply constructed in a really safe way. We also have some changes that occurred during our bid period and need to amend the contracts to allow them some time to be able to update the plans. Revised totals and contingency are all what are currently in the memo, but I have them here for clarity. The other contract that we look to revise is with EIB Technical Services. They are inspection and outreach consultant. When we procured EIB in spring of this year to help us through the bid phase, the winter work was not known as part of the contractor's schedule. And so we were adding in time to be able to cover the winter work, which is anticipated with the contractor's work, as well as a field office for them so that they have a location proximate to the construction site. The third service that we are looking to amend is with our artists. So we have 4 artists that were previously selected as part of the project to provide 4 pieces of art throughout the corridor. The city council heard this back in April of this year for their phase 1 contract. We felt it important to bring all of it through the Board of Finance and City Council, knowing that we would be back to you asking for their design and fabrication contracts, which is what we're here for today, highlighted as phase 2. So this will be adding the ability for them to fabricate their pieces and install. Total public art budget is $500,000. Last, we are we'll look for the ability to sign an MOU with the Burlington Electric Department. They will be providing removal of the existing street lighting, installation and energization of the new decorative street lighting for their lighting policy. To highlight in the memo, which could be confusing if you're not intimately familiar with the lighting policy, is they provide us a decorative lighting price, which is what the project is expected to pay, but they do allow an offsetting standard light credit, which makes it a little bit more affordable to add decorative street lighting out to the corridor, a little less than $400,000 for that. Which then brings us to our construction project. Chapin.
Yep. So as the mayor discussed, we are in active negotiations with the apparent low bidder, SD Ireland. There are some items here in the negotiations that premature disclosure of which would put the city at a disadvantage. So we'd be asking the board to make a finding, and then after the finding, move into executive session where we can brief you fully on where we're at with those negotiations.
Thank you, Chapin. I'm comfortable, I think, say here in open session, we are obviously facing a situation where there are some challenges with the bid, and we are considering possible scope changes to manage our way through this situation. And so that's the nature of I think it's important that we be able to discuss such potential changes in a protected space. But of course, before action, this would be any changes would be laid out and be very clear as to what the board and the council is being asked to approve. So that's the nature. That's what we're doing here. Happy to try to answer questions about the presentation before going into executive session, or welcome a motion on to make that finding.
I just ask that presentation be added to the packet. I think it is.
Yes.
I'll get posted on the
Absolutely.
Okay. Councilor McGee.
Do we have motion language for the executive session?
Yeah, we do, and as soon as the presentation's back up.
Need to note the staff.
Probably
I've
best.
never done it during Board of Finance, so.
Yeah.
For Team DPW, we'd like to have Laura Wheelock, Norm Baldwin, Olivia Duriz, and Brian Pine here for the Corey. Are you planning to stay? No, okay, okay. So those 5 folks.
Great. Okay, so did anyone make that motion yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm happy to move to make a specific finding that premature general public knowledge of negotiations regarding the Main Streets, Great Streets construction contract would clearly place the city at a substantial disadvantage. Is that one motion and then we do the second one, or?
Yes, you would take that first motion, vote on it, and then move.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
I heard, just want to confirm, I heard Councilor Jang and
Aye.
Councilor McGee and Councilor Barlow, and so that motion passes unanimously. Then we'll take let's go to the second finding, second motion, Councilor McGee.
Based upon that finding, I move that we enter into executive session pursuant to 1 VSA 313A1A.
Seconded by Councilor Barlow. Discussion. Seeing none, let's go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 That is unanimous. And with that, we are now in executive session and the room has been cleared. You guys can log off of this Zoom and you should get a link momentarily. I think it will come from Catherine's going to send it, but it may show up in your email as being from Jordan, and click on that and come back in.
Okay, thank you.
It's coming from who, Jordan or